Morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to PZA committee meeting for Wednesday, February 22nd. Can we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Featherling?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Ms. Weber?
Here.
Mr. Fairfield?
Here.
Mr. Long?
Here.
Mr. Swanson?
Here.
Mr. Eckhoff? Ms. Foster? Here. Ms. Andrade? Here. Mr. Ashcraft?
Here.
Mr. Scanlon? Ms. Turner? Here. Mr. Wheeler? Mr. Wheeler? Mr. Alexander Hildebrand?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, we've got Carol Weber on Zoom. Carol, we need a motion. Mr. Swanson, Mr. Long, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. You're all set, Carol.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, we had everyone received their minutes and the email. Anyone have any corrections or deletions or anything they want to change? If not, to entertain a motion to approve them. Mr. Long.
I wasn't there. I wasn't at the meeting, so I think.
Okay. Okay. Mrs. Andre, okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, next up we have a building report. Dell has that.
Okay. In your packet, you have the building report for January 2023. We issued a total of 30 permits in January, one of them for a new house. With total fees collected, $11,832. That's down pretty substantially from January of 2022. Fees were $24,000 that month.
Anybody have any questions? So we have to just go on that, or we got to vote on that?
Need a vote.
Pardon?
Need a vote.
Okay. Get a motion to approve the building report. Mr. Ashcraft and Mr. Long. All in favor say aye. Aye. Thanks, Dell. Next up are proposed, I'm going by my pages instead of the agenda. We have a stormwater MS4 program discussion by Mr. Skimmerhorn today.
Okay, we are required by our MS4 program to discuss the program at Planning and Zoning every month. I do have some news this month. The IEPA did review our process, and when we made it through it with only 2 minor corrections. We need to place our environmental justice map and program on our website. We have it, we just forgot to put it on the website. And when we do our inspections of the outfalls, we must start looking for suspended solids now, which according to them is us taking a mason jar out there and filling it with water coming out of the outfall and letting it sit for a half hour and describing what we see. Either on site, or we can put lids on them and bring them back to the office. As long as they sit still for about a half hour, they will settle out.
I forgot where you're taking a water sample from?
The outfalls. Anywhere we have an outlet that goes into the Kankakee River.
Well, you could be out there
There's
for a month.
32 of them that are
Yeah, I was going to say they're everywhere.
We are required to do that. So
that's where the fish are.
That's one of 14 things we look for in the water. Apparently we hadn't been doing that, so we need to start. Other than that, though, it's pretty minor, so we made it through our review very well.
Any questions for Dell on that? I don't think we need a motion for that one. Okay. Next up, we have stormwater ordinance fees amendment. What do we have for that, Mr. Skimmerhorn?
Okay, give me just a second here. I should have labeled something. Oh, I'm in the wrong spot, that's why. Yes, our stormwater ordinance was adopted in 2006. You should have a copy of it in your packet there. And I've highlighted in green additions to the ordinance, and red strike throughs are removals. There was a typo error under on the first page under B. In 2006, when the ordinance was written, if you look on page 2, those 2 items that are highlighted in yellow, those were included in the original ordinance in 2006 to charge a fee for stormwater permits. as set forth in Chapter 18. When you turn back to Chapter 18, there was nothing listed for fees. So they passed the ordinance and then for some reason never moved forward with arranging the fees. If you go to the last page, I did an analysis of the average time it takes us to perform the reviews and inspections for these two types of permits. We have a Class 1 or a Class 2 permit, and based on that and the cost for our, the hourly rate for our person to do that, and that's where I came up with these figures. So we are suggesting, and there was never a figure, if somebody didn't agree with us and wanted to appeal, there was no fee for that listed either. So for an appeal would be $250, and that's in line with all of our appeals. Appeal to the Board of Examiners or to the Zoning Board of Appeals is $250. Class 1 grading permit, that is done entirely in-house, and that's for anything that's less than an acre. So we would be charging a $200 flat fee on that. And Class 2, which actually requires engineering and a lot more review, would be $500 plus $30 per acre, because the larger the site, the more review and more time we put into it.
Acreage fee, huh? $30. Okay. Del, do you have that?
I can state that we get a fair number of stormwater permit requests in our office. I think maybe they didn't go forward with the fee because they assumed they would get a building permit fee, and that would cover it. But we're getting a lot of them for ponds, parking lots, and grading where there is no other fee, and therefore we do all of this review for free.
Okay.
Currently.
I had a question when I saw this. Is how much does it cost to have a ZBA meeting?
I think they're running me around $600 to $800 depending on the length, but those are with court reporters, and
We're only charging $250 for that.
for an appeal.
Appeal, but that goes to the ZBA.
If you do not agree with a zoning decision from my office and want to appeal it to the Zoning Board of Appeals, it's $250.
But then you got to have another meeting.
Yes,
How much does that cost? $650.
$600 to $700 for a meeting, but we group them together. So if you get a rezoning, those are $600.
Okay.
You get a special use, those are $600. We try not to do a meeting with just a variance, which is $280, or an appeal.
Okay.
And we rarely get an appeal. We've had them.
I don't think
In my
I've ever
32
seen
years,
it.
I think I've seen 3.
Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't seen any. Okay, Del. What else? We have the decommissioning plan. You gonna go?
We need a vote on.
Oh, we got to vote on
Need
it.
a vote on the ordinance change.
Okay. Okay, we get Mr. Swanson, Mr. Fairfield. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, next up's the decommissioning plan for Illini Solar.
Yes.
Like the
Just a
back here.
second. Gotta find the page where it talks about the figures. Okay, this is a decommissioning plan for Illini Solar, which is located in Limestone Township. We've reviewed it. The numbers seem to be in order, and the total for the bond would be $276,348. So we would be requesting a motion to approve the decommissioning plan and the bond in that amount.
Okay. Everybody review that real quick. Seems like they're pretty much all the same. Get a motion in a second. Okay. Mr. Miller, Mr. Alexander, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, next up is zoning. We get. Huh? Oh, Andy, Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you. Del, is this in line with the new law? It was effective immediately? Does this mirror the state's?
This will be the
decommissioning?
last one under that. This was approved back in 2018, so therefore it follows
Okay.
the old rules.
Okay. Do we have any more? This is the last straggler?
This
if you will?
should be the last one unless somebody comes in between now and May when we have our new ordinance in place.
Okay. And if we have,
Well, I take that back. Anything, as long as they are not asking for an extension or a change to their plan, anything that was pre-approved prior to January of this year would follow the old rules. So any of them that were approved in 2018 that comes in,
Right.
we would still be doing this for them.
That's what I was trying to figure out. We got some stragglers who didn't get the lottery the first time that may
Right.
want to just go again.
My understanding is that the next lottery is in June,
Okay.
and then we're getting a lot of phone calls from developers we've never heard from before. I think I added another 6 sites to the map last week.
Just as an FYI, there's a House bill, and I think Senator Joyce is doing a Senate bill to try to clean that up. The House bill is much more robust.
Yeah.
I was down there talking about it yesterday. So
Right, we will make adjustments depending on what that does.
Mr. Wheeler, were you pleased with what you saw yesterday or no?
I mean,
Was it worth your trip? That's what I was
oh
wondering.
yeah, I had to
Okay.
testify. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it was
Good.
worth it.
Okay.
It passed committee 8-0, or I think 9-0.
Wow, okay, good, okay. Thanks, that'll help. Okay, next we have the zoning map, Dell. So we have,
The next one.
no,
That would be it. Yeah.
this is updated as of today, right, or no, 2/22, huh?
Well, it's the 2022 zoning activity. We're always a year behind on zoning.
Yeah.
Each year, we ask the board to readopt the county zoning map with the changes, all the zoning changes from the previous year. Last year, we had 21 zoning cases. 7 of those were rezoning, 11 were special use permits, 6 of those being community solar gardens, 3 variances, and 17 farmstead exemptions. Out of the 21, 19 were approved, 1 was withdrawn, and one is still pending. Next, please. Okay, our original zoning map was adopted back in March 21st, 1967, and it is revised periodically over time. The last major renovation of the map was with the when we redid the zoning ordinance back in May 14th, 1996. Next, please. Actually, I have my own clicker here somewhere. There it is. See that? Now, beginning back in about 2000, when we went digital mapping, where we were able to do a better job of updating the maps on a regular basis, we have been adopting them every year. And this is what, I know it's hard to read. If you'd like to look at the actual map, you can come down to the office. It will be posted on the K3 GIS once the county board approves it, but that's what the new map for 2023 looks like. And that incorporates all of those 21 cases that I mentioned earlier. Probably the biggest one you can notice there would be the Heritage Prairie solar farm up in the left corner. It's kind of a purplish hatch color.
So that's always available for anybody to look at upstairs, second floor?
On the second floor,
Yeah.
we keep a copy of the map there. The official map is kept in the county clerk's office, so if you ever need a certified copy of the official map for whatever purpose, you would want to go see the county clerk for that.
Okay, thank you.
Need a motion to approve that.
We need a motion to approve that, huh? Okay, so we're gonna go with it, okay. Okay, a motion to approve the zoning map, Mr. Swanson. Second by Mrs. Andrade, Miss Andrade? Andrade, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. None, motion carries.
Kelly, if you could load up the other one.
We don't gotta move on this thing, do we? No. Okay. There will be a 10-question quiz at the end of the meeting.
Yes. This is part 3 of our ongoing training session about what the planning department does. Today's topic is going to be the Kankakee County zoning ordinance and the zoning process. What happened? Oh, we skipped way back somehow. Okay, to the beginning. A, B. There we go, Part C. All right, there we are. Okay, I think it'd be probably best to, just ask any questions as we go along, and I will go ahead and get started here. The zoning process begins with the county zoning ordinance. That's authorized by 55 ILCS 5/5 12,001 in the state statute. Our first, as I mentioned earlier during the zoning map, our first ordinance was adopted March 21st, 1967. And it has been amended periodically with the last major update in 1996. One thing to remind the board that this is your ordinance. So if you do not like something in the ordinance, it is the board's prerogative to change that ordinance as long as it's within the guidelines of the state statute and law. So it is yours to change. And the main purpose, as outlined in the ordinance, is to promote and protect the public health, safety, comfort, morals, and general welfare. That is the underlying goal of the ordinance. Yes, sir.
What's the procedure for making a change or amend?
Well, we would apply for a text amendment.
Okay.
Whereas similar to what you just seen with the stormwater ordinance, we would write it up with the changes that we want to see, and then I would take that before the Zoning Board of Appeals. They would be the hearing body for that ordinance change. And then once it got through there, it'd go to Planning and Zoning and ultimately to the County Board for final approval.
Okay.
Okay?
Thanks.
All right. So the ordinance divides the county into 10 districts. We have what is called Euclidean zoning, which means that everything is in a district, and each district, it's designed to separate incompatible uses. So if you look at our districts there, we have the A1 Agricultural District, the A2 Agricultural Estate District, which is kind of a hybrid between agriculture and residential. It's for farmsteads of 2 acres or more. We have Rural Estate, which is only allowed within 1.5 miles of a municipality. That one is is similar to the A2, except you can have lots as small as 1 acre. We have the R1 single-family residential zone, which is self-explanatory. We have the R2 high-density residential. Currently, we have only 1 property in the county that is zoned that, up in Diversitech. We have the PL Public Lands District. That's for parks and recreational areas. We have the C1, which is restricted commercial, C2 general commercial, I1 light industrial, and I2 general industrial. Those are the 10 districts, and each one has different uses listed under that. Other parts of the ordinance, we have the general provisions, which sets for the rules, definitions, interpretations, separability, and scope. There's a section in there about administration and enforcement that tells me and my team what to do and what not to do in given situations. We have a planned unit development. That is a special section of the ordinance that allows a development to go above and beyond the permitted uses and requirements of any given district. Illinois Diversitech Campus is a PUD, and Shannon Shores out in Essex is a PUD. That's the only 2 PUDs that we currently have. And it's basically a negotiated zoning. Like up in Diversitech, it's zoned I2, but because of the PUD, you don't necessarily have to follow the setbacks for the I2 district. That can be negotiated, or building height, or lot coverage. Those things can be negotiated because of the PUD status. There's a section on accessory structures and uses. There's the sign code, parking and loading, and access and roads. Now, when they set up zoning back in the 1920s, nationally, it was realized that there would be uses and structures out there that would be put into districts that they shouldn't be in. Those are called legal non-conforming uses. A legal nonconformity, an example of that would be, let's say a neighborhood zoned residential, but up on the highway happens to be a tavern. And back in 1967, because of mapping limitations and such, the whole area got zoned residential. Well, that tavern would, since it should be in the C2 commercial district, would be a legal nonconforming use. It would be allowed to stay as is, where is, but any changes to it would have to come into compliance and therefore be rezoned to C2 commercial. If they were to expand it, if they were to decide it's a tavern, let's add a restaurant to it, that would trigger it being changed. But other than that, it could stay as is, where is. Occasionally we get nonconformities, not legal nonconformities, nonconformities. That's where something happened, usually without permitting that we were unaware of, and it does not fit the district that it's located in. In those cases, those must be corrected before they can move forward with any permitting, or usually we catch those when they want to sell it. The zoning map, we just talked about that earlier, but that accompanies the ordinance and is part of the ordinance. So those are really your two parts of the ordinance. You have the ordinance itself with the text, and you have the zoning map. Any changes to zoning, variances, special uses, they all are depicted on the map and must be depicted on the map. And the map must be updated by March of each year, and doesn't have to be readopted by the board, but we found it's easier to take it to the board and have it readopted each year. Therefore, we have a good current map every year. And I said the official map is kept in the planning department and a copy is filed with the county clerk. That's actually wrong. It's one filed with us. The official map is in the county clerk's office, so it's backwards. And I just threw that one in there from the last time. That's 2016 map, but can't read it anyway, so. But that's what our maps look like. Now the zoning process. Somebody has property and they want to make a change to it that doesn't fit the district in which they're in, or doesn't meet the bulk regulations for setbacks or something of that nature. Starts with an application. They submit an application to the county clerk. The county clerk sends that application up to us. We review it, and then we set a hearing date for the Zoning Board of Appeals. The Zoning Board of Appeals' role is to hear the evidence and gather all of the evidence and render a recommendation to the county board of what those findings are. And all of that evidence gets boiled down into findings of fact. These are the facts of the case, and they must meet the facts of the case. The applicant must meet the findings of fact in order to get a positive outcome on the recommendation. Once the Zoning Board of Appeals is done with it, then it comes to this committee, and this committee's role is to review those findings of fact, not to collect any more evidence or hear any more evidence, but to review the findings of fact from the Zoning Board of Appeals and ensure that they made a proper decision. If this committee feels that they did not review everything that needed to be reviewed, they should send it back to the Zoning Board of Appeals for another public hearing to hear that evidence. And the county board's role, the full county board's role, is to review all evidence, findings, and recommendations, and the county board makes the final decision on most cases. There are some cases, minor variances, that stop at Zoning Board of Appeals, and they are the final decision makers. But most of them do come to the county board. So what is the Zoning Board of Appeals? It's a 7-member board. They're appointed by the county board, and they're designated to hear the appeals for zoning, gather facts and information, deliberate those facts, and render a recommendation for approval or denial. And who are they? Gene Rademacher from Sumner Township chairs the zoning board. Dave DeYoung is the vice chair from St. Anne. We have Elizabeth Scanlon from Pilot Township, Dennis Martin from Manteno, Jason O'Connor from Limestone, Willie Ames from Kankakee, and Brett Herod from Norton Township. And Michelle Sadler and myself are the secretaries for the Board of Appeals. We keep the record, we set the meetings, and supposed to take notes, but and minutes, but we actually hire a court reporter to do that so that we have exact verbatim minutes of the meeting. So what do? They hear requests for map amendments. Anytime, we often refer to them as rezonings, but a rezoning is a map amendment. You are amending the map, the county zoning map. So that is technically a map amendment. They also hear text amendments. That is a request to change the ordinance. And they hear special use permits. Special use is in the ordinance. Each district has a list of permitted uses under it and a list of special uses under it. Permitted uses are allowable by right. If you want to do one of those uses, you do not need any zoning approvals. It's automatically already approved. Then the list of special uses, because they fit in with the district, but they might have certain aspects to them that aren't quite compatible. Those are special uses. An example of that would be
Solar farm.
what's that?
Solar farm.
Well, a solar farm in the A1 district, while generally compatible with the surrounding uses, there may be aspects of that particular use that could do harm to the surrounding area, such as noise or shadow flicker or anything like that, that the county board would need to scrutinize further and determine that they're not going to harm any of the surrounding area. And those are special use permits. So each district has a list of special use permits under them. If your use is not in that list, then you need to go rezone to a district that does have the permitted use in the list, such as you can't have a solar farm, which is a special use permit in the A1 district, in the residential district. You would have to rezone to A1 first and then get your special use permit. Okay. They hear requests for variances. A variance is a request for permission to not follow the ordinance for a specific reason. Very commonly, it's usually driveway spacing or a setback variance. And commonly with setback variances, it's because there's an existing non-conforming structure that's already doesn't meet the setback limitations, such as a house that was built 20 feet from the road when it should have been 50. But it was built back in 1950s when we didn't have zoning, so it's a legal nonconformity, but they want to add on to it, and that addition would be too close to the road. So that would require a variance. Or with driveways, a driveway that's too close to another driveway or doesn't meet our spacing requirements, they can ask for a variance for relief on that. Variances, though, do have some scrutiny to them. One of the things, probably the biggest item that the applicant must prove is the physical hardship. We just had one recently that, in my opinion, had no physical hardship whatsoever. Hardship cannot be, it'll cost me more to do it, or I don't have the finances. It must be a physical issue with the property, such as I can't put my garage in the backyard because there's a creek running through my backyard. That's a physical aspect of the property, and the only way I can get a garage is to put it in the front yard where they're not allowed. You would ask for a variance for that. And it would be up to the board to decide if that hardship was justified. In that case of the creek running back there, it probably is. And the appeals part of their name, Zoning Board of Appeals, they hear appeals to staff's decisions. As I said earlier, we've only had about 3 in the last 30 years. But it does happen when someone doesn't agree with the decisions that my office and staff makes, they can appeal to the Zoning Board of Appeals for relief and let them decide. And they maintain the integrity of our zoning ordinance. Okay, so what is the zoning process? Yes, sir.
Mr. Swanson.
I had a question for you on variances.
Okay.
And I've seen this come up here a couple times. Does a person technically have to own the property to ask for a variance? I think I've seen some come through here with an intent to purchase if we provide the variances.
They do not need to own it, but the owner must sign the application.
Okay.
They must have the owner's permission to move forward. anyone can apply, and a renter can apply, a leaseholder, somebody who wants to buy the property.
But the owner does not have to be the applicant, just has to sign off.
They must sign off on the application.
Okay.
That they are aware of it and they approve of it, yes. We see that a lot of sales contingent upon them getting the variance.
Yeah, that's happened a lot
They
lately.
won't buy it if they don't get the variance, so that happens, yes. So the zoning process, applicant meets with the planning staff. Usually this is initiated with the building permit. They come in for a building permit for their project, and when we analyze it, we determine that they can't do it there under the current zoning or the current regulations, and then we advise them whether they need rezoning, a special use permit, or a variance, or sometimes multiple variances. Then they submit the application to the county clerk. 2 copies of that. One stays in the county clerk as the official record forever. The other one comes up to our office to start working on it. From the day that happens, we have 5 days to review the application for completeness. We are not really analyzing it, we're just making sure that the owner has signed it, that the surrounding property owners are listed, and that the findings of fact have been addressed. Then the ZBA secretary sets a hearing date, and it's usually at least 20 days out from the time of that's a minimum from the time of application, because there's we got 5 days to review it and a 15-day public notice. So 15 days before that hearing date, a public notice is placed in the newspaper, and the notice is sent to all adjoining property owners and any municipalities within a 1.5 miles. And those are sent by certified mail. This is older. 7 days prior to the hearing, we actually eliminated that with our last rules of procedure, so it is 15 days across the board now. Then the zoning board conducts a public hearing. They hear the testimony from all sides. It's all testimony is under oath. Everyone giving testimony is sworn in. And then they develop the findings of fact and render a recommendation based on the facts. It must always be tied back to those facts. And it's a preponderance of the facts. There is no place for opinion, conjecture, speculation, or feelings in the zoning board's recommendation process. I've seen that time and time again, somebody crying. Well, you feel for them, it really shouldn't have anything to do with the approval process. Once a recommendation has been rendered, the ZBA develops those findings and they forward those to the Planning and Zoning Committee in what we call a finding of fact report, which you get for every case. And that outlines what happened at the Zoning Board of Appeals. And the public hearing is the only time that new evidence can be presented, not at Planning and Zoning or at the county board meetings. So if you feel you need more evidence, you need to send it back to Zoning Board. Okay? You'll hear a lot of public comment a lot of times that at the committee or the board meeting, that's not evidence. And your decision should not be based on anything said at public comment. If something comes up at public comment that you would like to consider, you should send it back to Zoning Board for the consideration. Okay? So what does the Planning, Zoning, and Ag Committee do? They review ZBA's recommendation. They can agree with the recommendation and forward it on to the county board. They can disagree with that recommendation. If you disagree with that recommendation, that means you're disagreeing with one or more of the findings of fact. In that case, you must come up with your own finding of fact that is contrary to the zoning board's. The zoning board found that that no harm would come if they built too close to the road, but you realized through the evidence, reviewing the evidence, that it's a pretty busy road. There's a likelihood a car could come off of that and hit that building and cause injury and damage. Then you would write up the finding to say that would be in contrary, and you would forward that finding with your recommendation to deny to the full county board. And that would be and if you determine that the public hearing was not sufficient for whatever reason, that not enough information was gathered, or there was other points that you wanted them to consider, you would send it back to Zoning Board for additional public hearing and deliberation. That happens about once a year, once every 2 years that occurs. The county board, very similar to PZA. You can accept the recommendations from the PZA and ZBA. You could disagree and make your own findings, or you could send it all the way back to zoning board for further deliberation. Who is the applicant? Could be the owner of the property, could be a person purchasing the property, or anyone with interest in the property. That addresses your question from earlier. Could be individuals or corporations. All applicants and anyone speaking on their behalf must be sworn in prior to testifying, and the burden of the case is the sole responsibility of the applicants. It is not the job of the zoning board, PZA, or the county board to prove their case for them. They must prove that they meet all findings of fact for their case, which has been problematic at some points where members have wanted to testify for basically you're testifying for the applicant, and that's not the role of the zoning board or any county board member. If you want to testify on a particular case, you certainly can. You have to do it at the zoning board of appeals, and then you may have to recuse yourself later on at the decision. Okay, that does happen occasionally too. Okay, so the hearing process, we'll go through this pretty quickly. Chairman opens the hearing. There's a roll call and declaration of a quorum. The case is introduced. Secretary states that notice requirements have been met. There's a reading of the legal description. Usually that gets waived because they can be very lengthy and take up a lot of time. The board hears testimony from all applicants. The board cross-examines testimony and evidence from applicants. Any objectors are allowed to comment and cross-examine and present their evidence, and rebuttal by the applicant after that occurs so that they can answer any questions that came up at public comment or from objectors. And the board hears testimony from all objectors. The applicant cross-examines them. There's rebuttal by the objectors if needed. Board hears comments from the public. And then the board closes the public hearing. They take no more testimony, and then they deliberate the facts of the case. And they build their findings of fact from that. What are the findings of fact? These are the standards that have been prescribed by the county board that each case must meet in order to be approved. They are listed in our ordinance. There are 6 findings for a special use permit, 4 findings for a variance, and 10 findings for rezoning, except for the A2 district, which ended up with 9. If one standard is not met, the case should be denied. Each case must meet all standards, so all findings for each of them. So rezoning must meet 10 standards. They must prove that the case meets all of those standards, and objectors must prove that the case does not meet at least one of the standards. And I have all of them listed out here. We're not going to go through them one by one, but when it comes to a variance, the first 2 are the most important. What is the hardship? Is number 1 for a variance. What is the physical hardship on the property, such as topographical conditions, physical surroundings, location of structures that are legal non-conforming, that type of thing. I hear very often that it would cost, I want to put it up front because it'll cost me more to put it in back, and well, that's not a hardship. That's a financial hardship for the applicant, but it's not a zoning hardship. Okay, that one there we hear very often. I also hear, I just don't want to. That's not a hardship. And the other one is, what is unique about the conditions of this? What is the unique condition that cannot, if it can apply to multiple properties on a regular basis, then we should just add it into our ordinance and not do variances, which is how we ended up with the rural estate in the A2 district to begin with. We were getting a lot of variances for lot size when the county board made lot sizes in the A1 district 20 acres. Everybody who wanted less than 20 acres was asking for a variance for lot size. After issuing about 20 of them, we decided that's ridiculous because they were all approved. If the county board is going to approve all of those, then we should just make it legal in our ordinance. So there must be a unique condition that applies only to that property or a handful of properties, and not regularly across the board. Okay, special use permits. One of the big ones there is that they need to prove the need for that type of use in the community. Why do we need this use? And then they need to show how that special use will not harm the environment, the neighbors, the road system, or the area. And I list all of them out. You can, I'm going to send this out after the meeting so you can review it, what each one says in your leisure. Amendments to text and map. That's a change from one district to the other. So we have 10 districts. If you're A1 agriculture and want to build a tavern or a restaurant, you'd have to rezone your property to C2 commercial, as an example. That would be a map amendment. Text amendments, of course, are amendments to the ordinance itself. So there's particular findings of fact with those. One of the big ones there is, how does it fit the county's comprehensive plan? If that tavern in the A1 district example, if you take that, if the county's comprehensive plan is for that area to stay agriculture, then that tavern should not be approved in that location. But if the comprehensive plan shows that that property is being used as agriculture, but it's at the intersection of Route 1 and 17, which is a major corridor, and we'd like to see commercial there in the future, then rezoning that parcel to C2 commercial would be forwarding and meeting the goals of the plan, and therefore should be approved. So when it comes to rezonings, you always want to consult your comprehensive plan and your map. Next month we will talk about the comprehensive plan. Okay, and there's all the different findings of fact for that. Role of the PZA. I don't know if this is reiteration or not. Yep, we already covered that. And the role of the county board is similar to the role of the PZA. The difference being that the county board is the final decision. Decision making. How can I make good decisions? Review the application, definitely read the staff reports and the findings of fact reports. Ask questions. If you need clarification on anything, that's what I'm here for. I can discuss anything as it was discussed at the zoning board level. If an item comes up that was not discussed, then we can't really discuss it. If you'd still like it discussed, should go back to the zoning board for that discussion. What shouldn't you do? Ex parte communications. While a case is active, which means after an application has been filed, you should not be discussing any aspect of the case with anyone outside of the public hearing or public meetings. The only exception to that is you can talk to zoning staff and you can talk to the legal counsel, state's attorney. You should not testify for either side of the case. If you do want to testify, if there's a need, if you have an interest in the outcome of that case, they're your good friend and you can testify for them, you can do that at the zoning board level, but most likely you will have to recuse yourself from the decision-making process later. And you should not base your decisions on anything other than the facts as they are presented at the hearing. You should never consider the number of people in attendance. I've seen that happen, where a room full of objectors automatically makes it a denial, which it shouldn't, because a lot of times the number of people there who don't like it does not necessarily mean it does not meet the findings. And you should never base it on a person's demeanor, affiliation, or dispensation of any person of their attitude, protest signs, chants, emotions, and none of that should be a factor. I do remember picket signs a couple of times. What is spot zoning? This goes back to rezoning cases, map amendments need to meet your comprehensive plan. Spot zoning is defined as the rezoning of a lot or parcel of land to benefit the owner for a use incompatible with the surroundings and not for the purpose of affecting or furthering the comprehensive plan. So a map amendment that would be on A1 agriculture out in the middle of nowhere that the county board does not want to make commercial based on its comprehensive plan would be spot zoning. And a lot of times people think that spot zoning is a small parcel. No, there is no size limitation. If the map amendment does not meet the recommendation of the comprehensive plan, it is by definition spot zoning, even if it's hundreds of acres. Yeah, it has little to do with the physical side. What is ex parte communications? The definition of ex parte is one-sided. This occurs when information is communicated between parties involved in a legal proceeding, and zoning is a quasi-legal proceeding, that is not heard by or available to all parties. So a discussion you have at the coffee shop about a zoning case is not heard by the rest of the board members. They do not know what information was given at that discussion. That is ex parte communications. Okay? And since you need to base your decision on the record and the findings of the case and not what was said at that coffee shop, you shouldn't have that conversation to begin with. I always advise that if somebody comes up to you out in whatever location and wants to talk about a case, instruct them to show up at the Zoning Board of Appeals hearing, and they can give their information there where everyone can hear it. Okay? And it's not always actual ex parte communications. A lot of times it's the perception of ex parte communications. But I can tell you that if a case were to go up, go to the court system, they would be looking at that. And a case could be overturned because of ex parte communications, whether actual or perceived. So we like to try to avoid that wherever we can. Now, sometimes you get ex parte communications that there's nothing you can do about. You can't unhear somebody shouting from across the street. You've heard it. You opened a letter you got and you started reading it, and then you realized, hey, this is about this case. Even though you might close that letter, you still read part of it. In those instances, you can take the ex parte communications away by presenting that information at the next available meeting. So before we start talking about a case here and somebody's talked to you about it or you received a letter, bring that letter. We'll make copies of it and give it to all members. Then all members have that same information. It's no longer ex parte communications if everyone has it. Okay?
Okay. Yep, Mr. Miller got a question. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Miller.
Number 11.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would this include driving by a property that has a pending application to gather information on your own? Should you refrain from driving by a property to gather information?
No, if you're just driving by, it's in the public view, you can certainly do that.
Okay.
Driving onto the property, walking around, that would be a no.
Okay.
Okay. And also you should be cautious. I've seen that happen when you're out there driving around or you stop in front of a property, somebody comes out to talk to you. That can become ex parte communications very quickly.
Okay, so although that may seem like you're doing your due diligence as a board member, you ought not to do that.
Yeah.
Right, and that also depends, which is the next slide I'm going to get to. Okay.
Thank you.
Del, real quick, when I was on the ZBA, we used to go look at the cases at the ZBA level.
Yes.
We do site visits all the time for those.
Right. And if you read the reports, we have pictures in the reports. You should gather most of the information you need from the reports we give you. But if you need to drive by it to get a perspective, that you can do. I would caution not talking to anybody while you're doing it. And you need to stay in a location where you can view it from public view. Okay. So I can't talk to my constituents. Well, that depends. There are two types of actions that the board will take depending on the zoning request. A legislative action, that's a change to the law, which is our ordinance, and we know that the map is part of our ordinance. So a map amendment or a text amendment, absolutely you can talk to your constituents. You can talk to anybody about either one of those because that is a legislative action. Special use permits and variances are a quasi-judicial action. That's an action taken by public administrative agencies or bodies that are obligated to investigate or ascertain facts and draw conclusions as the foundation of their official actions. Quasi-judicial actions, you should not be talking to anybody outside of a public hearing on. And so it gets a little more complicated. So legislative actions, you could. I'd still recommend you probably don't, but you could. Yeah, text amendments and map amendments are legislative actions. Variances, special use permits. Appeals for administrative decisions are quasi-judicial. And that's where I end today. Any other questions?
Good job, Dill. That's nice.
So next month will be Part D. That's the final part I have, which is a discussion about the comprehensive plan and how that fits in.
Okay, no questions at all for anybody? Dell? Carol? Do I put Carol on or do you? Carol, are you asking? Did you say something? No? Okay. Okay. Get a motion to approve this.
Yeah, after.
Michelle? You have the floor.
Good morning. I'm here because the Bourbonnais Grove Log Schoolhouse has asked to be nominated. They have reconstructed it. I'm sure you're all aware of it. They've reconstructed it on the same property that the Laterno home is on. So I'm asking for permission for the chairman to sign the intergovernmental agreement with Bourbonnais to landmark because we don't have jurisdiction in the village and they will only do a case-by-case agreement, and it would be pending state's attorney approval. They have approved it at the Bourbonnais village level, so now we're wanting to get county board approval, and then we will be taking it to hearing if everything goes. We have a hearing scheduled for March 6th for the Historic Preservation Commission.
Okay.
So we're asking for permission for the county board chairman to
Yes,
sign.
to sign. Yep.
I would absolutely make that motion, and the document that they presented to us is a wonderful document.
Okay.
Very thorough.
Very thorough. Nice pictures in color too. Okay.
By the way, Red Marcotte used to be a member of this board.
Didn't know that. Okay. We get a second from somebody over there? Okay, Mr. Fairfield. This all in favor? We spending money?
All in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion
Thank you.
carries, I guess. Thanks, Michelle. Anything under old business, Dell?
I have none.
Anybody have any old business? Anybody have any new business besides the 6 openings on the Kankakee County Board of Examiners and Appeals?
Yeah, let me just say
Cover that a little bit.
things about that.
Okay.
The Board of Examiners and Appeals is the hearing body for all things building code related. So it's really the Zoning Board of Appeals, but not the zoning ordinance. This is for our building code ordinance. There's a 6-member board, and they are all up for reappointment. So right now there's 6 openings, but 5 of those openings are filled, are expected to be filled by reappointing the 5 people in those locations, which is Dave Tyson. Each appointment does have to have a certain background. So Dave Tyson's a civil engineer. He's already reapplied. Jeff Jarvis is the architect. He's reapplied. Gregory Austin is the electrician. He's reapplied. Bill Bakowitz was our plumber. He is no longer able to do it, so we do need a plumber. We're looking for a plumber to apply for that. Bob Bedell is the commercial side of things, and William Warburton is residential. And both of those are, Mr. Warburton has reapplied, and we're expecting Mr. Bedell to apply. So really, there's one opening, but we have to announce all 6.
Okay. Does it matter the location of where that person lives though?
Where they live, no, but they must be
Qualified, so you're looking for a
qualified through-
plumbing guy then?
We need a licensed plumber, yes.
Okay. Anyone have any more questions? Okay, barring none, motion to adjourn. Mr. Miller, Mr. Fairfield second, all in favor say aye.